Hello there, everyone. Sorry about that. I had a rogue slide up on the screen there. How are you all? Hopefully you can all hear me. I think my microphone's working okay. Let's just check that you could all hear me first. Let's just check. I think we're all looking okay. We've got a good few of you joining me already. So if you can give me a quick thumbs up, sorry, the screen is working. Let's just bring those in here. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Beverly. Lovely to have you here, loud and clear. Perfect. Good, good, good. Okay, so who do we have? Let's go back up to the top. Hi, Stu. Stu, sorry. Oh, this is going to start off really well, isn't it? I've got myself laughing now. Hi, Sue Stewart. Oh, dearie me. Okay, I do have a plan, honestly. Fingers crossed it will work out. Hi, Marion. How are you? Tracy and Lorraine. Patricia's here. Hi, Lorraine from sunny Egypt. Lovely. Do you live in Egypt, Lou, or are you on holiday there? And we have Kathy Grimes. Hello, Kathy. Hi, Bonnie. How are you? It's a lovely day for crafting. We've actually got the sun out today. We've actually been so lucky since, what day are we? Yeah, since Sunday, actually. We had a glorious day Sunday. We was out walking with Hazel, doing normal Sunday things. Yesterday we had a house full of teenagers, so that was fun. But it was a nice day actually. And today the sun's out again. So Hazel had another walk this morning, which was lovely. Who do we have? We have, hi Lorraine. Oh, we've got a couple of Lorraines with us. Jules from a rainy Shropshire. Hopefully the sun is coming from this way, from Ireland over to you, Jules. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? And who else did I see? Oh, hi Cheryl, how are you? I really must catch up with your live from last night, Cheryl. Yeah, it was bank holiday here actually, in Ireland yesterday, St Bridget's Day, so bank holiday. Yeah, so the day goes out of whack really, doesn't it? And who's that? Lou is on holiday, lying on a sunbed. Very lovely. Well, thanks for tuning in, Lou. Hopefully you'll enjoy this afternoon. Hope you've got a nice drink in your hand, and if you had a dip in the sea. Actually, is the sea warm this time of year as well in Egypt? I'd imagine it's probably warmer than it is here. No worries, Sandra. You know where to find us on YouTube. Oh, we got, oh, hi Helen, how are you? And Carol and Natalia. Oh, hi Natalia, how are you? I've not spoken with you for ages. Hope you're okay. Right, let's get going, shall we? Let's get crafting. So I'm using the Corner Poppy collection today. This is a set from a very long time ago. One of the very first, I would say, if you look at the numbers, the layering stencils 96. Well, it's not with the first. He says well in a stride by stencil set number 96 and embossing folder 120. But it seems a long time ago now compared to the numbers that we're at today. But the reason I'm using this today, for one, this is a new set to me actually. I've really only just had this, I think, when Lisa had her last sale on. I think I bought these at the time because I've always wanted another. I thought the sale was the perfect opportunity. But if you look on Lisa's website today under the specials, or go back and check through your emails that you may have got from Lisa probably yesterday morning, you'll notice that this is actually pick of the week, along with the, is it Corner Rose? I think it's Corner Rose, which is the other set that I don't have, but they are on at a phenomenal price for pick of the week. Both sets, so you can buy them individually. You don't need to buy them as a pair, which is great. So you can buy just the embossing folder or just the layering stencils, or this might just be the ideal opportunity to buy it as a collection, because they are actually at £6 each. And if you log on and you have your membership, you'll also see, depending on what level of membership you're at, whether it's bronze, silver or gold, you'll actually see the corresponding price. So if you are a member, then it could be you can get this for a little bit less than £6 as well, but it's a phenomenal price. So if it's something that you've really been after, I would definitely say now is the time to get it. And the other collection, which is also consists of an embossing folder and layering stencils, Cheryl, there, you might just confirm that for me. I'm pretty sure it's a rose set. I know I haven't got it, and my memory is terrible. I did look at it earlier this morning, but now that I want to recall the exact name of it, I can never remember. But yeah, phenomenal set. Now, what I've had a play with it this morning, so it's the first time I've opened it today. So, but what I didn't realise, which was such a lovely surprise with the embossing folder, you actually get the coordinating outline die with this, but you get 4 other dies. So this set in it alone, even if you're not a stenciler and you know you don't necessarily want to do your inking, this set alone, you're getting the 6x6 embossing folder, which gives you that design that you can see there, but also you get the opportunity to die cut out this design as a whole, but then you can do your layering and your decoupage with this, because we have 4 other dies which allow you to cut out 4 of these individual blooms. So you can actually do lots of different layering on this, which is fantastic. I didn't actually realise, I knew it came with the die, but to be honest, I thought it just came with a large die. I wasn't expecting these extra ones. So yeah, I was really pleased with that. So I've got a couple of cards to show you today, just to show you a couple of different ways to use them. I'll show you how you can die cut and how the set looks when you layer them together, and I will also do the stenciling. And because this is a corner, what a lot of people do like to do is actually create this into a frame, so you mirror this corner onto this section of a piece of cardstock to match and lay it onto your front of your card. So I'll show you how that comes about as well. Now, I do have a live on Thursday, and what I'll do then, probably with a different set, I will also go into how you can colour your images using your embossing folder by actually adding ink to the embossing folder itself, because a lot of people were asking for that technique and wanted a demo of that technique on Lisa's Friday night live when she was showing the Year in Blooms collection. Right, bear with me 2 ticks. I just need to sign back on, or back in, for some reason or another, just so as I can see your comments. Oh, I just need to go through the verification. It does pick its moments, doesn't it? Okay, but there we are. Lorraine Pross, you just bought them both. I wasn't going to buy anything else this month. I know. It just, I don't know. It just keeps luring you in, doesn't it, Lorraine? There's so many things. I'm waiting for my inks to come, and do you know what? The postman came today, and I know my inks are on their way. They are so close. They have to go through customs to come to me in Ireland, which sort of delays the process a day or 2. And I ordered my inks, and I also ordered spare or another set of stencil brushes and the blending sponges to use with metallic ink, so that I can dedicate the tools for them. And my tools turned up today, the sponges and my brushes turned up today, and I ordered them both at the same time. So I know my inks are somewhere along the line. And you know what? The postman, he drove off, he delivered the parcels, then he drove off, and then he came back, and I thought, oh, you know, he got my hopes up. Oh, he's found another parcel. I was hoping it was going to be my inks. but it wasn't. So fingers crossed they turn up to me before Thursday, then I can use them in my live then. Right, so let's get stenciling. What I thought I would do initially, there's a couple of cards, as I say, that I want to talk you through how to make, just a couple of different techniques. So I've already done some stenciling this morning. So this is straight onto a 6x6 piece of cardstock. So let's just bring the stencils in. So you have a set of 6 stencils in this, and obviously this collection is a 6x6 square collection, and I've stenciled initially onto a 6x6 piece of cardstock. You can see how that fits nicely underneath my stencil there, and I've created that first image. So that in itself is a perfect corner. I could cut this down, I could die cut this, and I could put this onto a square card and I'd be well away. But what I wanted to do is to show you how we go about creating a frame. So we have like a full square, which is a nice way to use this. So what I'm going to do, I found this easier by using a square piece of cardstock, because now what I can do, just flip my already stenciled piece on its head. So I've turned it 180 degrees, so it's basically upside down. So I can bring my first stencil in again, and I'm just going to line this up the same way as I would have done my first one. So it's going to sit flush against my pegs, and I'm just going to center that into the stencil there. Now, before I do any stenciling, I'm just going to make sure that everything lines up. And you can see with stencil number 1, we've got the foliage on to start with. And I'm just looking through the apertures, and I can see that none of the apertures on this one in particular are overlapping what I've already stenciled. So I think I'm already in the perfect place. Just to make sure, what I'm going to do, I'm going to flick through my stencils and find the most intricate. Well, I'll find one of the stencils that actually takes up the most of the design on the stencil. That gives me a good idea of the size that I'm working with. And I'm just going to pop that down on top of that stencil there. And again, I can see that where the flowers are going to sit with where I've positioned my card, that there is no overlap at all with what I've already stenciled. So that already tells me that I'm in a good position, and everything is going to be symmetrical within that 6x6 piece of cardstock that I've already stenciled onto. Now, if you wanted, hopefully you can see where, actually let's take that one away. You can see where I've stenciled underneath, which is perfect. Now, if you wanted to alter the shape slightly, then you just move your cardstock and you can create yourself a square frame. Now, obviously, I've cut my cardstock down to size, and this is just coming over the edge. But if the cardstock would have allowed it, just by repositioning the cardstock there, you can see that I can also create a rectangle frame with this set as well. So there's lots of different possibilities. You could make this square like this, you know, you have all those different options. I could piece together like this and actually make the square that little bit smaller and actually bring these flowers a lot closer, and that would complete the circle as well. So there's lots of different ways you can do this just by sort of flipping and moving your cardstock underneath. I'm going to stick with it like that because, again, it's nice and central on my piece of cardstock there, and I am making a square card. So now that I've done that and I've done all the lining up, I'm going to make sure all my stencils are back in order, and then we can get going. So the colours that I'm using on this one are Eucalyptus Leaves, which I don't usually use for foliage actually, but I thought I'd give it a try out today. And I really liked the shade of the green on this one, and Rhubarb Jam for the flowers. So just 2 colours, okay, just 2 colours for this. So I'm going to get stenciling with the foliage. So Eucalyptus Leaves. I'm using a stencil brush so I can put down a lot of colour quite quickly. Now, unlike a lot of other stencils, we don't have a huge amount of foliage on this particular design. And I'm only saying that purely as an observation. The design doesn't warrant it, you know, it's just other designs we have a lot more sort of foliage to go on, but we don't have a huge amount on this one, which is actually really nice. So it does mean that you don't need to worry too much about all the different shadings of the green that you want to use. Now, what I am going to do as I go along is just, hopefully I'll remember, just clean the stencil as I go, because I'm using a slightly different colourway for the next design that I'm doing, and it'll just make it a bit easier for me to wipe that as I go along. Okay. So you can see that we have the stencil, the foliage going down there. Right, stencil number 2. Again, we have some really, really tiny details on this one. So I don't know if you can see. Let's get a piece of dark card. I'll just lift this up. Just look at the tiny, tiny little details. They can be easy to miss when it's sitting on a white piece of cardstock. So, but fortunately, if you feel like you've missed something, it's so easy. So long as you haven't moved anything off of your Ultimate, it's so easy to put your stencil back on once you've done all the other stenciling, just to add those little bits of details. So now I've done that in the same colour as, oh look, I've missed one there, see? And I didn't even see that at the time. So I can go in and do that now. So I'm just going to give that a wipe as I go along. Now you could have done that in a different colour if you wanted. Right, now this is where we come on to the flowers, and there's a little bit of a hint of the colour that I'm using on the next demo for you actually. But I'm going to use Rhubarb Jam. Now the very first layer that I put down is going to be really, really light. Now, just to let you know, with this particular collection, this is the only layer where you actually see the full flower. The other stencils that we have are smaller accents that go on top. So we do a lot of work on this particular layer, which is layer 3, stencil 3, for these flowers. So I'm going to give that a quick wipe actually while I'm checking. So I'm conscious that to build the shape of the flower and get some character into the flower, that I'm conscious that we sort of build up the colour very slowly. So Rhubarb Jam, I'm going to pick up a very small amount and just give a really light layer initially over those flowers. Now at this particular stage, to you it's unlikely that you can see any colour going down, but it definitely is. I'm just going to go really light here. Now also what I will say on this particular layer, this section here, we have this really fine detail, but there's just one section of this flower that doesn't sit, or that isn't attached to the next part, and you can see that just here. Okay, so I would say when you come to this section, just be really, really gentle with your stenciling. What you can do, you can hold it down and just hold that in place, but just be aware of that, because if you sort of scrub this too much and went too forcefully with your brush at this stage, you would end up sort of flicking this back. So it's always good just to be aware of these really delicate areas on this stencil. So you can see here, I know my hands are going to end up in the way, but I'm just being really gentle with that. Now I'm going to take that away, and you can see that there is a very small amount of ink on there. So that is as pale as I want to go, and I will build up the colour next. So when I say sort of pale, and I say this with the first layer of all the flowers that I stencil, go really, really light. You can always add more colour, and that is about as, you know, that is sort of the level of lightness I would suggest going. Particularly if you're new to this and you're sort of wondering where to start. Now what I'm doing, I'm coming in with the stencil brush and I want to create quite a dark prominent colour around the outside. So I'm going to come in with the smaller stencil brush. So this is the set of stencil brushes that you would get. This is the original set of brushes. So these are the sizes. We have Lisa then brought out a set of chunky brushes which are bigger again, but you have the small, which is really tiny there, and the medium and the large. Now the majority of what I use is the large, but this technique now you'll see me using this middle one a lot more, and because it's so much finer, it actually means you can pick up an awful lot more ink. So I'm going to pick up the ink. Now we have some more small little bud areas here, so I'm going to come in really strong with those, which then distributes the ink really nicely on the rest of that brush for me. And I'm just going to tip in, and I think what I might do, just switch you over to the camera, this camera here. Hopefully you can see, it's a bit closer. I wonder if I can just do that a little bit more. There you go. Yeah, so I'm just going to tip in just into the aperture of the flower there. I'm going to pick up more ink, and it's going to be quite a dominant line, but that I don't mind. I want it to be as bold as that. And I'm going to bring the ink around, and I'm just going to tip again into the ink. So the centre of the flower is staying white, and I'm just coming in. I just don't want it. There we go, and just creating that really nice halo around the outside. So if I take that away, you can see how I've highlighted that, and you can see what I've done with the rest of the flowers here, and that is the effect that I'm going around and doing, wanting to achieve with the rest of the flowers. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to speed up a little bit if I can. Now if initially when you bring your brush down you've got a lot of ink, just distribute that ink really quite well on your stencil material first, and then push it into or just past the aperture there. So that's how you get your line. So I always blend my ink onto the stencil material first, and that gives me a huge amount of control with the brush. I'm going to come around this way. It's going to look a bit odd, but I don't want to cover what I'm doing, which I am. Very tricky. There we go. So I'm just going to come in and just push that ink into the aperture. Now at this stage, don't worry about the detail on the inside of the flower. We'll come to that in a second. But we just want to get that really bold outline around the outside. And you can create this as well with that smaller brush again if you find that easier. And it doesn't take too long to do. You'll find you get used to just tipping that into the edge. You can create quite a soft look with it as well, but don't worry too much about the blending at this stage. If you're in a slightly tricky position, you can just stroke down the brush into the aperture as well. That works. It slightly softens the line a little bit as well, which again is a really nice look. So I'm just going around and just doing that. Now the key to this is having enough ink on your brush. So this particular technique I used way more ink than I would do at any other time, because I do want to have that bold line going all the way around. We'll just separate those flowers like that, and then we'll just do this last one here. Again, it doesn't take too long at all once you get going with this. And you'll notice that there's still a lot of ink around the stencil here. We will use some of that afterwards. Yep, Hazel agrees with me. So I think I've done what I've needed to do there. So I'll just show you that now. I'll take that away. You can see that we've tipped all the way around the edge. So it's beginning to look a lot like more a lot more like the ones that I've already stenciled here, and there is some detail on the inside there already. So then what I would suggest is going back to your stencil brush and just in circular motions and just lightly mop up that ink the best that you can around the flower, and just really lightly start working that ink. You don't need to pick up any extra ink, just work that ink into the center of the flowers. And what this will do is lay down another layer of ink. Obviously it uses up the ink that's around the stencil, but it also then picks up all that extra detail of this lovely lovely flowers on the inside. So again, just being really gentle on this particular layer here. I do like to just put my finger on that and just work around it like so. So when I take that away for you again, you can see that those details in the flowers are a lot more highlighted than they were a second ago. Now I'm just going to swap to the smallest of the brushes, pick up a lot of ink, and then what I'm going to do, you can see these little areas in the center of the flower here. I'm going to highlight around the center of that, but I'm going to use the center of that flower as my palette to blend the ink, so just slightly, and then just work out that ink just gradually around the center of that flower, so you're getting that prominent color in the center of the flower. And I'm just going to do that all the way around again. Now this one here, it is delicate, but that area is just that little bit larger, so you can just go around in circles. And again, what this will do is just highlight some of those details that you may have missed before. You can just about see that, can't you, on the screen? I can do the same on here. Now if you want to work up and build up that colour more slowly than I'm doing, then that is a great way to do that also. So what that is doing is highlighting the centre of those flowers and giving those flowers a nice bit of character. I am going to give that a quick wipe. I'm going to do that off the stencil. Now I would normally use water, and actually when I clean this up afterwards, let me just put you back onto the main screen here. So I'm just giving this a quick wipe. Normally I would use water, but because I want to use these again in a second, the water would take too long to dry. So stencil number 4, we have the center of the flowers. Now what did I do on here? I actually used the anthracite, or a dark colour. I'm using anthracite. I'm not picking up any extra ink. I'm just using what's on the brush, and I'm just really gently just giving that a nice grey look in the centre. Because if you think about the poppies in the garden, when you actually look at them, I have poppies growing in the garden here. The centre of the flowers are so intricate, and there's yellows and purples and reds, there's all sorts, as well as the striking black. So I think that's why the grey works really nicely in the centre of these in particular. So that was a really quick stencil. So stencil number 5, we have the detail on the flowers. So this again is where we can pick up the rhubarb jam and actually give the flowers the character. So I'm going in heavy with this. Because we've got such a pale base with those flowers, it can take this fine detail. There's a lot of detail here, and this detail is actually quite small, so it would actually work if you used a smaller brush as well. But because the detail is fine, it looks like you're putting a lot of ink down. But when I take this away in a second, not a huge amount of it is actually going on the card. So that's why we can afford to go quite heavy with that ink here. Don't forget these buds here also. So you can layer the pink over the green, actually. That works really well. So what I will do again, I'm just going to give that a wipe. So you can see how the flowers are really coming together. Then the last stencil, you can really make the centre of these flowers pop. And I'm going to bring in my anthracite, pick up a lot of ink because I want those details in the centre of those flowers to be as dark as possible. So I'm going to put plenty of the anthracite down in the centre like so. Don't be afraid to use black as an accent like this sometimes, because what it can do is really make the rest of your colours just pop. Sometimes I find I can just get to the end and there's just something missing, and it's just, all you need is just a really small amount of detail like that, a small amount of detail for that black just to set everything off. And you can see there now, I can bring this background and we have a frame that is sort of more or less square. I could have sort of framed it up a little bit better, but that's how you get the overall look. What I will do actually, that I haven't tried, I'm going to actually emboss these. Now I've used a square piece of card, so I should be able to line the design up on both ways, or both ways into the embossing folder. So here I can line up this particular stencil design, but if I turn this around, I should be able to line up that second lot of stenciling as well and emboss that as well. Now obviously when you emboss this a second time, it's going to squash this one here, but the excuse me, the embossing is so 3D that although you won't have the dimension, the remains of the embossing will stay there. And I'll actually do that and show you how that works. What I'm going to do first actually is just cut this down to size, because I want this on a 6x6 card. Obviously that's too big. So I'm using my nesting dies, the nested stitch torn dies, these squares. I really like just the simplicity of this, and I'm just going to cut this down to size. So I'm going to just square up the design in the centre of that die, so bear with me. Okay, so I've cut this down to size now. Now you don't need to do the embossing. What you could do, you could stencil this another again onto a separate piece of card, and then you could do the die cutting, and then you could do your layering up on both sides or one side. You know, it's entirely up to you, but you can see now just by die cutting that down to size, that works with the grey frame around the outside. But what I will do, just to prove to you that you will be able to emboss both sides of this. Now this doesn't work for all designs actually, but it does work for this one. So I'm just going to line up that first layer of stenciling in the embossing folder like so. I'm just going to run that through the machine. Okay. Now what you could do, you could just leave it at that. It's tricky to show you on this side, but if I show you on the reverse, we have that first layer that is already embossed. Maybe if I come to this here, you can see that embossing on there. Now you say you could always leave this one as is, but what I will do, I will put it through again. So I'm going to turn it round. I just want to prove that although it will flatten this embossing, some of the dimension will still be there. So I'm going to put that through and line up this second one and run that through again. Now the alternative to doing this obviously is to stencil both of these, stencil this twice, die cut them, and then you could arrange them and stick them down onto this piece of cardstock, and then they'd both be embossed and you get the dimension from them. The other thing I was thinking of once I'd done this, I wished I'd sort of stenciled them a lot paler so I could actually stamp in black over the top of them. I thought that would be really lovely as well. But I've embossed both of those, and you can still see an element of the embossing. So let me bring you back to camera 2 again. So this is the one I've just done. So this is a lot deeper, and you can still see just about, it has flattened it, but there is an element of embossing there. So when I turn this over, you can see, again, it's very hard to show you on the camera, you can see an impression that has been embossed there. So it is definitely, I think, worth doing to if you want to create the card in this particular way. So what I'm going to do, I can attach this. I should have unblocked my glue. There we go. Yeah. So I'm going to attach this to the card. So I like it just a nice simple background straight onto grey cardstock. I think that works so well. Really makes the pink really stand out, doesn't it? And then what I've done to stamp the sentiment, I have used some of the new fundamental dies. So I've actually used the OCTAGONS this time around, and I've used those to die cut some vellum. Okay, works really, really well. This one that I've already done earlier, and I've done that so I can actually stick that in the middle, and you've got the proppies then of framing that sentiment in the centre there. And I've actually stamped onto the front of this, so I've got a smaller piece of vellum actually. And what I can do, I can use the craft stamps, the mini sentiment sets, to actually stamp onto this, and I'll just show you that briefly. Hopefully I've got enough time. I'm going to keep my Ultimate 2 out, just take away the silicone pad, and I can bring in my tacky mat. So I can bring in my tacky mat. I've kept the covers in the packaging there. So I've got my piece of vellum that I've already die cut, again using the OCTAGONS from the new fundamentals. I'm going to use Lisa's stamping platform. I can't remember what this one is called actually, but it comes with a piece of dense foam as well. It may look just like packaging, but I wouldn't throw this away. My desk can flex a little bit, but what I find with this dense foam that comes in with the stamping plate, it fits really nicely underneath my Ultimate. So if I just show you, everything's going to go flying. If I just turn my Ultimate over, you have your scoreboard on the back, but because you have this lip here as well, it does mean that you can slide this foam underneath, and what that does, that just gives my desk in particular, which can have a little bit of flex into it, and just makes this far more solid than it would have been if I didn't have that underneath. So if you are thinking, or you still have your stamping plate in its packaging and you're wondering, you're perhaps not getting the results you might hope to have got with it, just perhaps try that underneath with the foam. Works wonders for me. So this has got the peg system all the way around, so we can do rotating stamping if we want to, but I just want to stamp the sentiment onto this piece of vellum using the Swift Dry. So I'm going to just use the pegs here, and I'm going to use them as a slight hinge to be able to stamp onto my vellum. So I'm going to position my vellum where I want that to be. I already lined up my stamps earlier on, so I just need to make sure that I get my vellum in the right place just to centre that. And I'm working at this side of the stamping platform, because that gives me the opportunity just to be able to reach the vellum, because once I've stamped, just the nature of the stamps that you're using means that the vellum will lift just slightly, but that's not a problem. I'll show you how we can get around that. So I already have my stamps all from the mini sentiment set. So I'm using, what am I using? All the best. No, all the best. No, you are the best. You're the best mum. So this will make a lovely Mother's Day card. Now I'm assuming, or maybe she's not today. I know she'll watch later on. I don't know if my mum's watching. So it would be wrong if I sent this to mum now I've made this and she's seen it. But it would be a really good Mother's Day present, a Mother's Day card, but also change the sentiments up for anything. We've got something here anyway. Best of luck, simply the best, you know, the best teacher or best friend, you know, it's perfect. You know, it's a lovely, lovely sentiment. So I've inked up my sentiment with the Swift Dry. Move this back into place, make sure my phone comes with me. Line that up on the pegs, and then I've got a really nice platform to be able to stamp that onto the vellum. Now I will say that it will take a little bit of a while for the Swift Dry to dry onto vellum. It will dry, but you do just need to be that little bit more patient, because vellum is not an absorbent material. So the Swift Dry does dry super quick on normal cardstock, but on vellum you can take a heat tool to it, which is how I dried this one, and that works perfectly well. So I'm just going to make sure. Now at this stage where you want to lift the platform off of your stamping, if you are in any doubt and you may want to re-stamp again, you will want to make sure that your vellum stays in place. So you can see here that the vellum's sort of tipping out just past the platform there, and I'm just using something, I could use my fingers, I'm just using my ruler just to keep that in place. I'm holding the vellum down as I lift my platform away. Now use your tacky mat for it so it won't move. With the help of a ruler as well, it stays in place. So if I needed to come back down and re-stamp that, I know that's in exactly the same place and I won't get double stamping. But you can see that Swift Dry, as long as you sort of stamp that up really well, or ink your stamp up really well, that really does give a nice effect directly onto the vellum, and you can put that into the centre of your card there. Embellish with a few pearls or something, perhaps a little bit of ribbon or another sort of decoupage flower, and that's a really lovely card to get going. So that's one way to use the poppy, corner poppy. So I'm going to take that away. I'm going to bring my mat back in, and I'm just going to move that to one side. Now what I will need to do, I'm just going to show you this actually. You can see there that ink is still a little bit wet, because you can see the shine. And if I bring this one in here, I can rub my finger over this just to prove that it does dry. And if I just tilt that again in the same way, I need two hands, that this does actually dry. You can leave it to air dry, it will air dry, you can take a heat tool to it, but say once it's on there it really doesn't smudge. I didn't do that to this one because as you can still see, that is a little bit wet. So you just need to leave that to one side, just be that little bit patient, but that will definitely dry as proved with that one there. So I'm just going to leave that to one side, and that looks lovely against there, I think, doesn't it? I'm actually using pink vellum. This is Lisa's vellum from the Modern Floral collection, I think it was called. Oh, we've gone dark. Let's put a light on. So what I might do now, there we are. So the next lot of stenciling I'm going to come in to do is to show you, I'm going to stencil again in different colours this time. I've already done the die cutting, so I'll show you here. I don't need these colours now, I'm going to move them out of the way. Oh no, I do need that one. Not that one. Okay, Okay, so if you're still with me and you're still happy to be watching, I shall stencil this again. Now what I've done this time, I've chosen a different colour, as you can see here. Let's see, there we are for brightness. It's actually raining outside now, typical. Yeah, and then I will show you how we go about die cutting those, and there's the fourth one there. So I'm going to stencil this again quickly, similar colours this time, slightly different. I'll just give you different colour combinations, and I will list the colours under the video a little bit later on. I usually give a slide, but I run out of time today. So this time round I'm using Eucalyptus Leaves and Margarita for the foliage. So I'm coming down with Margarita first. The foliage can be stenciled really quickly with a stencil brush like this. So I'm coming down quite heavy with the Margarita. Oh, it's pouring out there. You might even be able to hear it. It's really tipping against the window. Okay, so I'm coming down with the Margarita like that. Now that's just a little bit bright, just to give that a little bit of a tonal look. I'm coming also in with the Margarita leaves. Oh, no, sorry, the Eucalyptus leaves. Honestly, I don't know where my brain's at today. So this is just going to change the colour of that Margarita just slightly. And if I take this away, and I'll just show you the look that that gives, and I'm going to come onto camera too, and that can show you. So we have Margarita here, which is that lovely lime vibrant green. Now I'm just coming in with a little bit of Eucalyptus leaves just on half of the through the aperture on half of the foliage there, and it just changes the look of that lime green a little bit. So that's a really nice way just to blend the colours, but I'm not going all over because I want to keep that vibrant lime. So I'm just adding a little bit. It does just change it. It just gives it a really nice, I don't know, warms it up a little bit. I think you can use any green to do this. I quite like to do it with woodland moss as well, but I do like to try and use different greens because we do have other greens in the collection, and woodland moss is my favourite. So I'm coming on to the stems now. Now what I will do with these, I'm coming straight in with Eucalyptus leaves. So the foliage this time, it's going to be slightly two-tone. So it has a different look to before. Oh, that rain. Can you hear it on the window? Okay, so make sure we get all those little areas here. And just before I move on to the top camera again, if I take that away, you can see sort of the character of those colours there, which looks very different to the first time that I stenciled that foliage. So come back up to the top there. Hopefully you can see well enough. It's gone quite dark in my room. So stencil 3, we're coming on to the flowers again. Now this time I'm using Coral Beach. I'm going to go really pale. And Coral Beach is a really pale colour anyway. So I'm coming in with my blending brush. You can't really overdo the colour with Coral Beach, I must admit, which is quite nice to work with. So I'm coming in heavy enough, I suppose. So I can definitely see the colour being laid down by that, the blending brush. These are blending brushes and the white ones are stencil brushes. So I'm just come in again. I'm just letting the blending brush do the work, and whatever highlights past some of the apertures there, I'm just allowing the ink to do its thing. I'm just going to pick up some of the smaller areas and just intensify that colour a little bit in some of the buds, just perhaps at the base of some of these flowers here, and just these areas where I was just had to be a little bit more gentle with the blending brush. It's a bit easier to go gentle with the stencil brush over these delicate areas, like so. Let's go around that there. So slightly different technique to stenciling before. I'll just take that away and just show you how much colour is laid down like that. So it is a really delicate colour to start with, and it takes on a whole different look. I've got flowers in the garden which are very, they literally are about sort of this small, and they are gems. So that's what inspired this particular colourway. And they flower on really long stems, and it looks so pretty when they're in full flow. Midsummer, they're actually around my pond. I just really like them. They're sort of one of my favourites in the garden, actually. You can always count on them. What I'm going to do now is come in with rusty nails, and I'm going to come in with the middle-sized stencil brush, and I'm just going to add highlights of colour in a similar way as I did with the poppy, but I'm going to do this with the rusty nails. You can do this with any colour. You can perhaps do this with a pink and change the look of it, but I really wanted to keep this peach look as opposed to go down the pink route. And I find that rusty nails is a really nice blend of orangey brown that works really nice with Coral Beach. So in a similar way as I went round the outside on the first card, I'm just doing that to a lesser extent with rusty nails here. It wouldn't necessarily be your first choice to stencil a flower in, but when you use it as a highlight like this with another colour, it works really, really well. It's not as orange as Early Sunrise, which would have jarred too much against the Coral Beach. It works really, really well. So if it's a colour that you have but haven't used very often, I'd encourage you to use it with the Coral Beach. I think I used this colour a little while ago, and I think somebody said that they were going to even just buy it and give it a try. It's a really useful colour. I use it for robins and things as well, and birds, sometimes twigs, but it's a really useful sort of orangey colour. So I'm just going to add highlights to around the outside, not a huge amount. It looks like more ink than it's actually going onto the card, but it's enough just to highlight around the outside and take the paleness of the Coral Beach. And I'm going to swap to the smallest of brushes, and I'm going to add that same accent to the centre of the flowers like I did before. So we're going to have that rusty nails look just in the centre of the flowers, so it just pulls it all together, I think, and just do the same there and just around the outside. Okay. Oh, the sun's coming out again now. So you can see now that we've highlighted the flower. The highlights are just there to accentuate the pale colour, if that makes sense. You really, the rusty nails, if it wasn't there, you'd think there'd be something missing, but you don't know you need like a brown to make the peach sort of really come out, if that makes sense. Now I'm treating the centre of the flowers in exactly the same way as I did before, so I've just gone in with a really light layer of anthracite so I can have the centre of the flowers really pop again. Again, that's you can choose any colour for that. Now I think what I'm going to do this time round, first time here on these flowers I used the rusty nails to give the accents to the flowers, but I had the idea if I can add perhaps a little bit of shine, and I've pulled out the pumpkin spice, the interference ink, which is a lovely sort of bit orangey colour on white card, which goes into a lovely purple on black card. So this is going to add a nice bit of shine just to give you them small bits of accents. It's something that I think I will use in the similar way if I had the metallic inks, or when I have the metallic inks, I will use them in my stenciling like this just to create the accents. So these fine details would look great if they were foiled or something like that, and I think you can achieve that foiled look by using something shiny. So we have the interference inks for this, which is perfect, but I think it would be a great way to use your metallics as well. So that's something, once I get my inks, that's how you'll see me using those and creating backgrounds and everything, of course. So I'm going to make sure I put plenty of ink down, because that way we're going to have plenty of mica, hopefully, jumping out at us once this ink dries. Okay, the pumpkin spice is a perfect colour for that, I think. So if I take that away, yeah, that works really well. And already I can see just glints of shine coming through that. It'll be hard to show you at this stage. And then I can come in with the last stencil. Again, these would look great in a metallic colour as well, I think. I think there's is it a titanium, which is a cross between like a silver and a black. I think it's a nice grey. That would actually add a really lovely bit of shine to those centres as well. But anthracite does the perfect job for that as well. So that's that stencil colourway stenciled. Now, obviously, there's a couple of different ways. Let me show you the... So this is the packaging for the embossing folder, and you get the dies with the embossing folder for this particular design. Take this out of here. I've mounted mine onto a piece of magnetic sheet because I found that easier. And also what I've done, I've laid out the dies on here in the order that they actually die cut your flowers out here. It took me a little minute just to figure out which way round they went. So you have your largest flower, your largest die is this one here. So you'll be able to die cut that flower. You can die cut 3 of the flowers all at the same time, and then you will have to do the 4th separately. Then the smallest floral die cuts this furthest flower like so. And then this one here, that tulip shaped flower at the top. So what you do, you die cut those 3 to start with, and you'll end up with these 3 blooms like so. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to then come in with your 4th flower and die cut that one out like so. And let me just show you, you can't line up these 2 flowers together and die cut them, because the dies would then overlap and you'd end up damaging them. So you do them in 2 passes, and then you can end up with all 4 flowers die cut. Or alternatively, you can just use your largest die and die cut them out as is. Always do die cutting first before you do your embossing. So I'm just going to die cut this out as a whole now. I've already done the individual ones. So we have our image die cut, so that's in itself, which is a lovely die, and you can die cut this as many times as you want and sort of create a frame of any size card. You could always create a frame for an 8x8 card with this. And then I'm just going to put this into the embossing folder, and I can emboss this as one piece also. So there we are, we have that image, and you can see that die cut embossed on the back as well. So it looks very different. You can see how vibrant the green is on this one compared to the first card when using those 2-tone. It's actually a really nice combination, the Eucalyptus Leaves and the Margarita. think I might use that again. Okay, so this time I am going to use or make a 5x7 card, and I've covered 5x7 with peach colour card, and then I've used a rectangle die to die cut some of Lisa's Shabby Chic design paper there with the wood grain effect. And then I've gone back to the fundamental sets, and this time used these squashed ovals because these work so well on the 5x7 shaped card. And I've die cut two, so I created a matten layer onto which I can stamp my sentiment in a second. And then I can just show you that we can use this on a different shaped card, and we can actually die cut or start layering our flowers on top of there. So there's a couple of different ways I can do this, and I'm going to stick this all down afterwards, because I think what I might do, I might just stencil the flowers in the background here, just really pale, just to add a bit of interest onto that peach layer there. I'll do that, and then I shall photograph it and put it into the group. I'm just looking for some 3D pads actually, of which I don't have a huge amount left. So I'm just going to put some 3D pads on the back of these die cut flowers. That one may need to be cut actually. I might need a smaller one for that small one. I've got a circle one, that'd be perfect. So I can put that on there. So what I can do, I'll take the backings off of these. Now you can decoupage these, I think, directly over the top of the image that from where you die cut it from. I think that would work perfectly well, but equally I think it could work if you actually offset these as well, so it actually gives you the illusion that this corner die is actually larger, or that the image is larger than it actually is. So you are actually creating sort of more blooms. You could do it that way as well, I think. So you can decoupage over the top and make that, you know, or you could do a mixture of the both. I might just put that one over the top like that, so we've got some dimension. We have a little look that we've got sort of more going on here than we have, and then we can perhaps sort of extend the frame out and add a different bloom onto it that way as well. So, you know, there's lots of different ways, and depending on how many times you die cut these separate ones out, you can sort of create lots of blooms around the outside. So you can see how this is coming together, and again this will create a really lovely card as well. So I think we can make this into a, let's do Mother's Day card as well. Let's do the same with that. We already have our stamps. Yeah, that's going to work really nice. We can do this in the same format as we did onto the vellum. And I think I'm going to keep the stamps as they are. I just put that into position, and then I can just place my die cut, my fundamentals die cut underneath, so I can just line that up so I know that that's in the right position. Now what I will do actually is put my tacky mat on, because that will just mean that my die cut will stay in place just that little bit better. You could use tape to keep it in place, or even you could use your magnetic mat and your magnets, but I think that's perfect there. Just make sure that that's straight, and I can use my grid lines or my tacky mat to show make sure that's lined up. Oh. And then I can get my Swift Dry ink again, ink up the stamp. And then you can line up the pegs here, create a little bit of a hinge, and then just lay that down. Now, I already have my foam sitting underneath as well, so that just gives me that stability, so I can press down. Because sometimes I don't get the best results, but I figured out it's because my desk bends underneath. So hopefully I've stamped that or inked that up well enough. Now in this case again, I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm going to get myself a ruler. I'm just going to hold that in place just in case I need to go in and stamp again. But it's actually a really good impression there. That works so well. So I can take that away. Let's move that out of the way. And you can see now how this card is really coming together. So I'll finish this off and I shall actually photograph it and line it up and put that into the group for you later. But there's two different ways on how this poppy corner can be used, two different colorways to make them look entirely different. And you would have seen all of the different samples in the group that the design team has done as well. So there's so much inspiration for this. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. Those people who actually who've bought that, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you do share into the group what you've made as well. I shall be back with you on Thursday with more stenciling and embossing folders. Again, I shall be colouring the embossing folder and show you different techniques on how that works as well if you don't have the stencils. I'm not quite sure what set I'll use just yet, but I'll figure that out. But thanks for joining me this afternoon, and I shall see you all on Thursday.